Hey guys, in today's video I am doing a back to school layout using my stash, and I'm also throwing in a couple of helpful tips to try on your next scrapbook layout or card. Hi, I'm Katy Taylor at scrappinkaty.com, where I show you how to preserve your family's memories through the art of scrapbooking. Okay, so this probably looks like a big, huge mess to you, but this is part of a YouTube hop featuring school layouts as part of a Facebook group that I'm a part of that's called Rediscover Your Stash. So that's what I have here. I have a whole bunch of stash. This is actually 2 paper collections from close to my heart years and years ago. We have denim days and school days. And then I am going to be scrapbooking some older photos of our middle son and our youngest son. And I hadn't scrapbooked these yet. I mean, we're all like that, right? We take the photos, we print them, we have good intentions, and then cuter photos come along, and so we scrapbook those first. So I'm really glad about this hop because it's making me do this. I actually looked through my school photos and I actually found some extra school photos. So stay tuned. I may throw another school layout in there as well. But like I said, I've just pulled scraps and you can see this is from my stash. This is old when one side was just kind of a muted color. I have the denim days, which is the pencils and the rulers and the denim back here. And then I have the bright colors of school days. I've also pulled out some stickers. If you can't tell, I really love the denim days paper collection. You can see all of these sticker sheets. So I'm going to use some of those and then as well as pull in some embellishments from my stash. But what better way to get that done than a hop that is dedicated to school photos and to your stash. So I'm going to clear this off, do some cutting off camera so you don't have to watch that, and then I'll be right back. Now, I did most of my cutting off camera, but I wanted to use some of this denim paper as a photo mat. So I'm going to go ahead and gut this. This will serve as the base. Now, this is 12 by 12, and I'm gutting it at 2 inches, and that's going to allow me to use that center piece. Now, when I have a gutted layout base, I like to apply adhesive on the layout base itself, and it's going to help me not put adhesive where it doesn't go. This piece is actually the back side. Remember those pattern papers are muted, and then I've got some French vanilla cardstock. Now, as far as the layers, I have gotten inspiration from this sketch. Now, I'm flipping it, and of course, I'm making it a one-page layout, but you could see all of those layers on there. The good thing about the layers, it's going to allow me to add a lot of these pattern papers from the 2 collections. Now, of course, I brought in the denim. I want the pencils because of it's a school layout. And then I'm using the yellow. I'll bring in red here in just a second. And then, of course, that striped paper, that's just going to allow me to add more embellishments later. Because both of the boys are wearing kind of bluish colors, those bright colors are going to help brighten up the photos. I am trying to kind of keep the patterns where they are double. You can see where the stripes are on the left and the right, the yellow, and then the pencils are on the top and the bottom. That's going to kind of balance out this layout as well. Now, for this quick little tip, I've used this numerous times here on the channel, but if you're new here, if you have something laid down and you don't want to mess it up, use some press and seal, and then it just picks those pieces up. You can apply adhesive down to on the back of that. And those are actually the pieces that are going to stick to your layout base. And then you just turn that press and seal back over onto your project, kind of press down where the adhesive will actually stick, and then you can just peel away that press and seal. You can save this. I have tons of rolls, so I just usually trash that. Now, as far as my pictures go, I have the one where our younger son is kind of pointing up to our older son. So I wanted to keep that on the left. I did decide to kind of move it down a little bit because I want the photo of them actually, quote unquote, behaving up at the top. I want that to be the first thing your eye sees. So that's why that kind of silly photo is down a little bit. I did want to add some red. Now this red is a pattern paper. I only have a little bit left because it was actually locker paper. It was one of my favorites. But that red is going to bring out our older son. He has a red polo horse, so it's going to bring out that. And then of course red is a primary color, predominantly used for some school layouts. While I decide on some other things, I usually like to go to the things that I know. And what I do know is that I'm going to use this pattern paper for the year. So I am just trying to find 2014 in a manner that I'm not repeating the colors. Because it's such a short, it's only got 4 numbers to it, I really wanted to use one of each color. So I just pulled some more from my stash. I cut squares out, kind of try to clean up some of that pattern paper out of my way now that I'm finished with it. And then I'm just going to fussy cut around these numbers. So you'll notice that I am leaving a tiny white border around it. And for the most part, I'm leaving my scissors still. And I'm actually rotating the paper. That really, really helps when you're cutting rounded edges. Leaving your scissors still and rotating the paper, and also leaving that border. It's a little bit more forgiving on those rounded edges. So I've got those. I am going to turn them over and go ahead and add some 3D foam tape. One thing about me is I can guarantee you that I'm going to use 3D foam tape. So even though I don't know really where those are going to go right now, I know that I want them to pop. So adding that foam is a no-brainer. I'm going to go ahead and, much like getting rid of the pattern paper, I'm going through these stickers and trying to decide what I'm going to use. So again, I can kind of clear off my desk. I am not a neat scrapbooker. I like to have piles around me. I like to look at them several times, but that was just kind of getting on my nerves. Now I've pulled out some embellishments. This one was labeled school, so I'm trying to look through them. Immediately I can tell that the colors really aren't going to match. So I'm going to go to a couple of more little bins. So there's this one that has shapes, and I'm definitely going to pull out some stars. Something about stars and school and stars and sports for me just go. Like if you asked me what my most common shape is, I would probably have to say stars. And I mean, that's over circles, that's over squares, that's over hearts. Stars are just my go-to. So I'm just pulling some stars. I did find some images that kind of had an embossed look to them. So I've pulled out 3 of those thinking I might ink those up. And then I've pulled out a bin that says craft. So I'm looking for wooden shapes. I'm looking for cardboard. I'm looking for something that indicates school. In this one, I actually found some more primary color, like clips, notebook paper, labels, stuff like that. So while I originally came to this bin for craft, I don't think I even pulled one single craft thing from here. I ended up pulling those primary color labels. I am going to look at a couple of more bins, and then I'm going to pull out my big stash of dots and glitter gems. Because our younger son's shirt is kind of like a bright blue, and all the blues in these papers are kind of a denim color, I'm wanting to bring that bright blue out. And so I've pulled out some dots, again, from my stash, and those have a blue in there that I think will work. So I'm going to go ahead and try with this light bulb, doing what I think is going to work out. It ends up not working out, but I just wanted to kind of show you. I'm inking that up with some yellow ink, and then you were supposed to be able to see the center of that, but I really ended up not liking that. So I'm going to put those to the side and not use those at all. So now for the embellishment part of this layout. Again, embellishing takes me a while. So just like I did with the 2014, I'm going to kind of do what I know. And even though I did not do any edge distressing to these pattern papers, I definitely want some dimension. So what I'm doing here is I'm adding some 3D foam circles under all the corners of these pattern papers. And that's going to allow those to stick up just a little bit. It's going to give it a little bit of dimension, but nothing like a torn edge or an inked edge. I find that I do that a lot. I know y'all get tired of doing that, so I'm just showing you an extra method. And then at the very end of this video, maybe or you might have to check out my Instagram. I did end up adding some more 3D foam tape. So for my date, 2014, I did decide to go ahead and use these little clipboard looking tags, I guess you would say. I didn't really like the tag part. They were kind of cut weird. They had more of a gutter on one side of them. So I went ahead and trimmed those. And while I was at it, I went ahead and took the tag shape off of it and just trimmed around that little faux brad that's up at the top. Now I have put those on my anti-static pouch to take the stickiness off of them. And then I'm going to come back in with some 3D foam tape. I decided to actually add the 3D foam tape to my layout and then just kind of stagger these above that kind of funny photo. So you'll see I'm going to overlap them, and then I'm going to make some crooked, some straight, some up, some down, so on and so forth. And then I'm going to come back in with the circles, and that is going to kind of be that landing spot for those circles. I felt like that date was going to get lost with the pencil pattern paper back there. So by using these tags, it definitely makes it stand out. And I love, again, that each one of these numbers is a different color. I went ahead and took the backing off the 3D foam tape of this photo, going to go ahead and lay it down, bring out my T-ruler to make sure it's straight, as well as that top photo. And I think I have them straight enough. So now I'm going to kind of look at those pieces that I pulled out. So I did look up the date, and it was a Monday. So this little file tab says Monday, and then there is the cutest little clip that says today, and then that is where I will actually write the date. So I'm going to make that overlap not only the photo, but that file tab. You know how when you clip things with a clip, it's clipping several things together. This one, I went ahead and I cut off that color. That kind of teal color was not anywhere in this layout, and I didn't want to bring it in. And then I did the same thing. I layered it over one of the little labels and added some 3D foam dimensionals to the bottom of that and just adhering that to that bottom left. Now I am going to come back in with this typewriter, so I'm just going to make sure that I can slip that typewriter underneath that little file tab, label, whatever that is called, and then get that adhered down again with some dimensionals on the bottom portion of that typewriter. Now I have the green typewriter, I have the green up in the date. So I'm going to kind of keep in mind that I want green at the bottom right as well. So I'm trying to go through how I am going to journal here. I really wanted to use the sticker, but it had kind of a background to it. So I decided to use the calculator. I mean, what screams school other than a calculator? Here is where I'm going to put in that extra little green label. I did go ahead and add some dimensionals to it, and I'm really not sure where I'm going to put that yet, so I'm going to put that off to the side. I am going to go ahead and cut this ruler. Now, when I first started this layout, I really wanted to use more of the ruler and the pencil, but it wasn't working, especially to keep the focus on my photos, which I always try to do. So by cutting that in half and just using those on the left and right, I think it did well. So if all else fails and you can't find any sort of paper to journal on, just tear it from an actual notebook paper. In this case, it was a journal. I am going to back it on some cardstock. So this is where I just kind of measured some cardstock. I'm loosely cutting that piece of notebook paper, and I'm going to go ahead and add some adhesive to that and adhere it to the cardstock. It's going to give it some stability. So when I come back in and journal on that, even though it's over those photos with some 3D foam tape, it's going to allow me to do that. Now this little green tab, this is where I just end up sticking it. I just stick it. That's what I had to do instead of thinking about it. And in the end, I end up adding a couple of more things to it, but I really like it. Now, as far as the notebook paper goes, just take a hole punch. Punch some holes. You can see here, I decided to do 5, and then take your scissors and just snip the ends and then kind of rough those up. and it makes it look like an actual piece of notebook paper. And that is what I'm going to journal on. Now I did go ahead and add these 2 red stars, and then I'm going to pull out those blue stars. Remember, I'm adding this blue because of the color of our youngest son's shirt to kind of make it match somewhat. I am going to do 3 or 4 or 5 clusters. I wish I had another red star. I did go back and try to look in my stash and I just couldn't find one. I thought about using a stamp to do some splatter, but again, I'm doing that a lot. So I decided to just do some doodle dots. This is the first time me using Stampin' Up's black Write and Stamp and Write, whatever it's called. And I actually really love it if you are going straight up and down. I did try to use it kind of at an angle, and I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, but it was really hard to write with. Now that bottom green is just kind of getting lost. So I'm going to play with it a little bit. And like I said, I do end up adding something off camera, but you'll see it in the still shots at the very end. Now I did use that Stampin' Write to do the date. And this is where I kind of had to go up and down. I could not write at a 45-degree angle for some reason. And then I decided to just kind of leave it as is. Here is a look at the layout, all the close-ups, all the layers, all the dimension. You can see that little arrow I added to the bottom green label. I'm absolutely loving the doodle dots on this one as well. Here are some still shots of that layout. Again, using my stash and documenting back to school. This is part of a YouTube hop. Make sure you click the description down below and you'll see all of today's participants. And then we even had some people post yesterday. So there will be a list of those as well where you can find those. So I encourage you to go look at those layouts if you are wanting to scrapbook either this year's layouts or photos or even old photos like I did. Maybe you'll gain inspiration from one of these videos. Thanks so much for stopping by and watching. I hope you'll have a wonderful weekend.